Hey everyone, Ryan here, and welcome to Ask M&R Productions, episode 209, the series where I answer your questions. So if you have a question you want answered on next week's episode, which will be happening after the finale, which is tonight, technically tomorrow, I guess, for Book of Boba Fett, I am super pumped for that. We'll definitely talk about it on next week's episode. But along with that finale of Book of Boba Fett, I'll be doing a live stream Wednesday night, tomorrow night, the 9th of February, at around 7 p.m. Eastern, to build the Jabba's Palace that I haven't built yet. Anyway, as usual, lots of questions. Let's get into it from Jackson. He says, it was awesome to meet you at Brick Fair, Alabama. Had a great time at my first Brick Fair and love getting to meet lots of cool people in the community. My question is about the status of your TIE fighters. Oh, jeez, I've been kind of avoiding this one. He says, I know you said that for every 10,000 subs in 2021, you'd buy a TIE fighter and see how many you can stack. How many subs did you gain in 2021, and will you stack your TIEs to the moon? So I think I gained like 120 or 130,000 subs in 2021. But the thing is, when the end of the year came up, I was kind of slacking on it, and all the TIE fighters were just sold out everywhere near me and online, and so I couldn't get them easily, and then I just kept putting it off, and here we are like a month and a half later from when I should have done the video, stacking TIE fighters and doing whatever else I would do in that. So I'm going to put it off for another year and just do it at the end of this year and then combine both years of subscribers the same way I was going to do, and then it will be even more TIE fighters. So yeah, may as well either go big or go home with that at this point. Brian says, how much more would LEGO as a company have to deteriorate for you to seriously consider selling off your entire collection? Nah, I don't think there's anything they could do that would make me do it. I think it would, like, it's my job at this point too. Like that's a whole aspect of it. But yeah, I really like LEGO the product. That still stands. Like, it's hard for me to like look away from that. Like, getting the Yoda is still exciting to me. Getting, this Jabba's Palace is still exciting. I don't dislike these things. I dislike LEGO the company and the way they run their influencer marketing that they say isn't marketing, and like the whole thing with that doesn't make any sense to me. And there's a lot of aspects about it that I don't like, but I still love the product and I really love making videos about it. So yeah, that's probably not going to be the catalyst for me doing that. 5% Viper says, do you think that the $60 set could be the Rancor Pit or the Naboo Starfighter in the Mandalorian style? Yeah, these are probably the two best bets. I would bet against a Rancor Pit, honestly, at that price point. It's unfortunate that a Rancor is not going to be included in the Book of Boba Fett's palace. That particular palace is based off of the trailer, basically, for Book of Boba Fett that we had at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, the end credit scene. So we just have a bunch of figures from there, including Bib Fortuna. So it's not a set technically based in Book of Boba Fett, which is interesting. Personally, it's a $60 set, and it was actually listed on the Canadian Amazon website, so we also know it has 411 pieces, and I guess it'll cost 80 Canadian dollars for the 5 of you that are from Canada. But point being, the set is coming. It's coming on June 1st, and we've known all of these things, and we know it's a Book of Boba Fett set, or at least that's the strong rumor, I suppose. I guess we don't know that. But if I was going to guess anything, I was told it would be something a while back. And that something hasn't shown up in the show. And I'm assuming it's not going to show up in the 7th episode because it wouldn't make a lot of sense. So I'm not even going to say what it is. But I promise you, don't worry about it. I think it was always meant to be the Naboo Starfighter. I don't know if it's going to be, but that would make the most sense. So hopefully it is. Personally, I think it would just include a Mandalorian and Peli Motto figure. I mean, maybe they are going to sneak in a third figure with like a Grogu or Boba Fett or something, even though he wasn't in the scene. They can just put in random figures because they can. But yeah, I think if I was going to bet money on which set I think is the most likely for that $60 spot at this point for June, it's going to be that Naboo fighter kind of in a Mandalorian theming. And it's also worth saying, like, the reason I wouldn't think it's a Rancor Pit is that the Boba's Palace isn't really built to attach on top of something to have a Rancor Pit below it. It's a much skinnier build, very akin to the 2014 Mos Eisley Cantina. Like, that's like same shape, same base area, right? So it doesn't have the same movable floor that we had in the 2012 version that allows you to drop a figure down into a pit. So I just don't see like an attachable Rancor Pit that's going to go under the Boba Fett's palace the same way they had the Foresight or like the attached builds back in 2012, 2013. I just don't see the same thing happening here. So realistically, I think it's going to be the Naboo fighter, but time will tell. Hopefully we'll know in a couple months. Kyler Wren says, do you really think the clone accessory pack will retire in 3 months? As someone who doesn't always have money to spend on LEGO, I wanted to build an army. I'm worried that I wouldn't be able to buy enough packs before they retire and have to pay crazy amounts to the aftermarket. 3 months might be a slight exaggeration, pretty heavy exaggeration at that, but these types of LEGO store exclusives are not quite the same guarantee for a 1+ year run as normal Lego sets that just end up in your normal retail stores. I don't really think it'll retire in 3 months. It's shown very quickly to be way too popular. But, you know, the idea that Lego can retire on a dime is not insane. I think the biggest problem for someone like you that wants to build an army stems from, even if these are available for a year, let's say 2 years, you can only ever buy 5 from Lego.com. After that, they will cancel your orders. I bought my 5 the first day they came out, and then I did a second order, like a pre-order, because they have them on back order now. So anyone that wants one can order one and back order it. So it doesn't make any sense to me why anyone can't just come in and order what they want now, because like they're willing to ship to whatever. Like it just doesn't make sense, okay? And so you can only ever order 5 from Lego.com if you got your account signed up and you got your address and your credit card. Like you're done. You're 5 and you're done. So if you don't live within a reasonable distance of a Lego store, who at that point will only limit you to 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and even if you're close to a Lego store, you still got to go a lot. And most people aren't close to a Lego store, right? Like I live an hour away from a Lego store. I don't just get to go every day. I know I was on a vacation and I was 10 minutes away from a Lego store. I was able to go every day for like a week and I got a bunch of packs. You know, I might have got up to like 10 packs or something. But like if you don't have that luxury, you're SOL and you can only ever have 5, 6, 7 of these clone packs, then you're screwed. To me, it's just insane that the Harry Potter set has a limit of 50 and the Star Wars ones have limits of 5 and 3 respectively. Will they open it up? Who knows? Usually when a limit is set on Lego.com, that stays the limit for the entirety of its lifetime. For example, the 501st Battle Pack has been out for a year and a half. Supply has finally caught up to demand. They probably caught up to demand probably like 6 months ago, but this is still a spectacularly well-selling set. And at that, they continue on Lego.com to limit it to 3 per person. So if you try to order 3 after you've already ordered 3 on your account on Lego.com, they're probably going to cancel your order, even though it doesn't make any sense, because you can, like, the set is pretty commonly available, easy to find now. It's not, like, particularly rare, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to still have the limit be 3, but it still is. The limit ain't going to change. It is going to be 3 or 5 for the clone pack forever, and if you buy your 5 on Lego.com, you're done. You can't get any more. JP says, how likely do you think a Master Builder Series Jabba's Palace is? Could it be the rumored $530 set? Very unlikely, and could it be? I guess, but like I said, very unlikely. I don't think it is. The $100 Jabba's Palace is coming out, or Boba's Palace, and it's just fine. It's going to fill the role of having a palace set, and I don't see that happening. I think the $530 set would just be something else, just not Jabba's Palace. Anyway, moving on from Darth Joe, he says, what do you think of the new Thor's hammer? Oh, that is an exciting set, man. It looks really cool. It's got the one Thor minifigure, and it's got like the little interior to the hammer as well that I thought was kind of a neat addition, where you can put some little builds inside of that as well. Yeah, it's a set that I'll pick up and review with more full in-depth thoughts, but for $100, it seems like it's a great way for Lego to be trending. It gives me hope that we can get a $100 18 plus Lego Star Wars set, because right now all the 18 plus sets I think for Lego Star Wars have been between $40 and $70. I would really love to see them expand a little, because right now we basically have this big gap of like collector sets where they go 40 to 70 and then 200 plus. That middle range, I guess you could argue that 40 to 70 is mid-range, but when I look at like the totality of Lego price ranges, right, we go from 0 to 800. The 80 to 150 range to me is more the mid-range when you factor in UCS sets being a thing. Obviously, it's the higher range of the normal play sets, but you get the point. Anyway, it gives me hope for more stuff like that, and it does look really awesome. Moving on from Stephen Holland, he says, what Star Wars Lego set do you own but don't like, and you're only keeping it for its value? So as a collector, I want to have one of everything. That's just a standard thing. So even if I don't like a set, even if I think it's bad, I keep it, if that makes sense. Like my collection, I want to have a complete collection of Lego Star Wars sets. Now that being said, I do think of something very specific. In my storage unit, I have about like 30 to 50 of the Imperial Patrol Trooper battle packs from, I think, 2018 from the Han Solo movie. And I like the 2 Patrol Troopers. I like the Speeder. But the other 2 characters I don't really care for, and I don't think I'm ever going to open them and build an army with them. I bought them all for they were like $6.28 on Target.com on Black Friday of that year. They were just, for whatever reason, not very popular, I guess because the movie relatively flopped. And so the sets didn't sell great either. And they were really deeply discounted, so I just bought a bunch because you don't see battle packs for $6 every day. And they've just kind of sat around now, and I think it's something that I'm keeping, hoping it continues to rise in value. Maybe those particular troops show up in a future Star Wars show or movie, and then it goes up in value, and then I do pretty well on that if I end up selling them. Or I am then encouraged to keep them and open them because I find the troopers even more cool if they show up in something else, that type of thing. So yeah, that's not that I hate the set, but that's a set that I'm only keeping for its value, I suppose. Shinebrick says, what do you think about the rumored Indiana Jones Lego sets coming this year? As far as I know, there's no rumors for what they actually are, or even if they're actually coming. I can't remember if that got rumored or not. But regardless, if Lego Indiana Jones sets are coming, I would imagine they get pushed back to 2023 like the movie, because the movie got pushed back to 2023. I think the movie's coming out in like July of 2023 or something. It's a ways away now. It was supposed to come out in summer 2022, but it's now moved back a year. And so if the Lego sets were going to come out this summer, I would imagine they get moved back to next summer or next spring or something, because the Batman movie had the same deal. The Batman movie got pushed back a year, so did the Minions. They pushed back Minion sets, they pushed back Batman sets, so they are willing and able to push back Lego sets, and the Indiana Jones has such a far lead up now that I would imagine they would push those back too. Lucas Brick says, what are your thoughts on Tom Brady's retirement? To me, it is like the final and complete end of my childhood. I'm 24, I'm trying to buy a house right now, like looking every day. I'm gonna go, actually just went and saw an open house on Saturday. But to me, he was like the final holdover of sports players that I watched as a kid. Dustin Pedroia, David Ortiz just got in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and guys like that, retired a few years ago and are done. Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, I guess Marchand is still hanging around, and Patrice Bergeron's hanging around on the Bruins. But I think the bigger takeaway for me is that I can now wear the jersey again, and I can put it on my door again and feel good about it. Anyway, moving on from Capybara, he says, was this your most disliked Ask M&R Productions? Which is a great question. I actually wanted to bring it up, so I was surprised to see someone even ask this. Last week's Ask M&R Productions, I did it with Sans and Michael. I had a great time. I thought it was hilarious. Apparently, some other people disagreed. Although a lot of the comments were overly positive, thought it was very funny, and I agree, the secret. But the like-dislike ratio on the Q&A video was 93.9%. That's not good. I mean, it's good. It sounds good, right? That's an A. But 93.9%, let me put that in perspective. The last two Ask M&Rs I did had a 98.3 and a 98.5% like-dislike. However, that was not my most disliked Ask M&R Productions. No. The most disliked Ask M&R Productions was the one where the title says, Jang Bricks is overrated, which I have a 71.7% like-dislike ratio. So I think that title and whatever I said in that video a few years ago is probably a little off the mark from the rest of the opinions of everyone. I honestly don't even remember what I said, but apparently I felt so strongly Jang Bricks is overrated, I put it front and center in the title, and the like-dislike reflects that. So I always find that really funny. It's hard to find, but it might be my worst like-dislike on a video by a pretty wide margin. I can't think of anything that would be worse than that, although maybe I'm just misremembering. Billy says, do you think there'll be another Playscale gunship released in the near future? I really want to add one to my collection, but don't want to spend the money for a used or sealed retired one. Thanks for the great content. Appreciate the time and quality you put into your videos. Thanks, Billy. Just real quick, because I have given a pretty good answer on this before, I would like to think one's going to come out this summer, but what I think is as good as what anyone else thinks at this point for that. But the concept I wanted to introduce to you that you might have missed is the idea of setting a date for yourself. So anyone that missed this, just a reminder anyway, if you want a gunship or you're thinking about buying any retired Lego set, if you wanted a Jabba's Palace, maybe your date is August 1st. Obviously, we're getting a Jabba's Boba's Palace on March 1st, so you can buy the new one instead of having to pay whatever extra for an old retired one. Essentially, the date would be, if Lego doesn't release a New Republic gunship by August 1st of this year, then you cut your losses and you go pay the extra for the other one. Same can be said for anything. You just set a date, whether it be an August 1st date or a January 1st date, and at that point, you say if it's something you really want, you say, hey, it doesn't look like Lego's going to do this in a timely manner, and you go and buy one on the secondary market, be it eBay, Bricklink, Mercari, whatever website you like using, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp. There's a ton of different options. You can go out and look for better deals, but obviously it's not, a guarantee that you'll get a good price on something. You sometimes just have to pay what it costs. The Falcon says, I found a mismolded Lego brick in my Trouble on Tatooine set a while back, and I was wondering how rare that is. I haven't seen it before, whether in person or even in a photo, and I would like to think that Lego would catch a mistake like that in production. I would assume most mistakes like that are caught in production, but of course some errors will slip through. And to your question of how rare it is, it's hard to know exactly what percentage of parts are mismolded, but to give you my personal experience with this, I have only ever had one mismolded Lego piece, and that was in the 2014 General Grievous wheel bike. One of the big Technic bars basically just had a little bit of the mold not completed, so it had like an extra strip of a hole on it, and so it didn't affect the quality of the piece, it didn't affect like the build, it was perfectly fine, but it was basically just an extra gap in the piece that wasn't supposed to be there, and that is the only piece in the entirety of my collecting life that I believe I have had be mismolded. So think of that I have opened thousands of sets at this point, and only one piece and probably millions of pieces has had a little broken piece in it, whatever. So very, very, very rare. It doesn't happen often. Doesn't mean it's worth a particularly large amount of money, but it's just something that you're not going to find in very many sets, and you as a Lego fan and purchaser are very lucky to have experienced at that point, because it's just not something that happens often. From Tyler, he says, Brick Fanatics just released a list of sets retiring in 2022, which I actually made a video on a few days ago. He says, a few sets surprised me to be retiring on the list: Moff Gideon's Cruiser, Bad Batch Shuttle, the Mandalorian Forge, Mandalorian Fighter, Ninjago City Gardens, and a ton of Spider-Man sets, the little Batman tumbler, a good number of 2021 sets released, retiring rather quickly. And all of that was necessary to read because he wants to know, is this what the Lego subscription service is going to be? You pay $5 a month just so you have access to sets longer. So they shorten the time on shelves, and you pay a premium to have access for their second, third, and fourth or so years on shelves. Lego shopping online, of course. That would be a pretty low blow, in my honest opinion. And it doesn't even have to be your honest opinion. That's just a low blow, straight up. Okay, so most sets don't make it to a third and fourth year on shelves to begin with, so I wouldn't quite put that in that category. And these aren't like abnormally short lifetimes for Lego sets. Like, for example, a set that came out in August of 2020, having it retire at the end of 2021 is pretty normal okay. That's a 1.5 year shelf life. Sometimes they'll go a little longer, sometimes they'll just end it right there. So usually 1.5 years is like a pretty average lifetime for a Lego set. 2 years is usually the max, but recently they've been going 3, 4, UCS Falcon 5, probably gonna have 6, 7, whatever. So most of those normal sets will go 1.5 years, and that's perfectly fine and normal. Although if we see a trend of Lego taking these sets and making them immediately available as their like primo access, yeah, I think it becomes a bit of a problem, and it obviously makes having access to that totally not worth the money, because those are sets that you could have just bought on the shelf a month ago. So it will be interesting if the program does come to fruition, how they run that, but as of now, it's really hard to say. But yes, I would keep your eye on stuff like that. If that's how they start trending, then yeah, it's pretty scummy. Grant Perry has one that I've actually gotten a few times, so I figure I'd give him an answer here. He says, are your parents ever home? I've been watching you for years. I've never seen or heard them in any of your videos. How do you so easily make videos without ever showing them on camera or ever hearing them in the background? My parents are so loud that I could never make videos like you do without them constantly making noise. Love your videos, and may the force be with you. So the first tip I have for you is I close my door, actually. So that's a really good way to make sure that nobody that would otherwise be walking in the hallway there shows up on camera that's not supposed to. That answer sounded a little bit meaner than it was supposed to. Yeah, basically I just film when they're not around. I mean, yeah, they're home a lot. My dad actually works from home, but it's, you know, like I'm in my room most of the time when I film anything here at the house, or if I actually, you know, if you watch my vlogs, sometimes I'll go out in the living room and I'll vlog out there, or if I'm walking to the garage or whatever. And I typically only do that when they're not home. I just don't feel comfortable filming in front of them. It's just weird to me. So yeah, that's basically it there. I just don't film things with them in the background of it, if that makes sense. And then as far as like the noise at this house, I guess I'm in a decently far away area of the house, which definitely helps. I mean, we're not in a ginormous house. It's probably like 2,500, 2,600 square feet, but it's enough to have at least a little space between you and whoever else is in the house for the most part. On top of that, I film a lot at night, so, you know, most people are asleep at night anyway. The TV, if the TV's on, you can't hear it because my door's closed and it's not that loud. I mean, honestly, the biggest problem I have is sometimes I'll try to film a review at like 6 or 7 p.m. And then if my parents are like doing the dishes or they're cooking out in the kitchen, I can always hear the like clanging of like silverware, and so then I'll just not film then, and I'll wait until the noise stops. It's pretty easy to get around at the end of the day. So I feel like that was a bit of a long-winded answer for a pretty simple question, but yeah, I just avoid it, and it's not incredibly hard. Backyard Film says, what price point do you think yields the most consistently good Lego Star Wars sets, and why is it $30? That's honestly a great question, and it does seem to be the $30 price point, right? Like that, if you could only pick one price point, $30 has had some absolute bangers in recent years with the File First Battle Pack, the Mandalorian Forge, Trouble on Tatooine, the upcoming Dark Trooper set is fantastic as well. I'm gonna have to do a video about $30 Lego Star Wars sets, like maybe a top 10 or worst to first, but also like the price point of that has kind of changed. That used to be $25. and now they're $30. So maybe I'd allow myself to work in the old $25 price point because the same size box and everything. It's just obviously $5 more now because of inflation or greed, whatever you want to look at it. I forgot to film the outro. Thank you guys so much for watching Ask M&R 209. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you have a question you want answered on episode 210, leave in the comments section below. And maybe I'll go sit maybe I'll turn the camera around next time. Wouldn't that be interesting? Anyway, peace out.